Welcome to another Thursday. It's time for a gear talk. That's right. Like I said in the last video, I'm really not going to quit doing this at all. I may not be happy with what's going on when it comes to gears or, that situation in general that I talked about, but I'm already here. I've already do this every Thursday as it is, so I might as well keep going. Now, like I said in the last video, when I had to make that little addendum in the beginning, I released that about 2 weeks after I originally made it. So I didn't get to go over Operation 2, what I thought about that. This ain't going to be like that. This is actually about one of the characters that was released. It's not about Lizzie. It's not about Baird. Baird's coming someday. That's going to be a long video, but that'll be one of the other days coming up. This has nothing to do with the Locust. Well, it does have something to do with the Locust. It is a Locust we're talking about, but not the Locust as a whole. And I have my notes here like I always do because some of these names and some of these terms are Locust terms, and they're not the easiest to either pronounce or just remember off the top of my head, so I actually do have them here just in case. We're going to be going over Jermad today. So Jermad, however you want to say his name, Jermad. He was one of RAAM's, you could say one of his elites, or one of the people that RAAM trusted during the Locust War. Actually, this was before the Locust War even, because this was when they were fighting the Lambent down the tunnels, and no one was even thinking about fighting humans, except for Mira, but Mira's always been thinking that. So, in the tunnels, it was pretty much RAAM and his Bloody Vanguard, which was his own select unit that he had at the time before he was in charge, before he had his elite Therons that were known for wearing their black and using the inky substance, kind of like what the Krill use and how they could use the Krill to their advantage. It was before that. He had his own unit, the Bloody Vanguard, Bloody Vanguard, I don't know what that is, but right down here, the name of his Vanguard was the Bloody Vanguard, but he had a name for it like all Locusts did, and the name for that was, let me find it here, a Blight. So a Blight is pretty much a unit, or for them it was an army of 300. So he carried around his own 300 Locust, boomers, grunts, snipers, all that. There were 300 of them. That was his Blight, or at least in the Locusts term, like anyone who's in a high command can have their own unit like that or a Blight. It turned out that Jermad was a part of that. He was a part of the Bloody Vanguard that was under RAAM. That was the name of his Blight. And he was one of the higher ups because when it came down to who was in his Blight, the top person in charge was RAAM. But if you go down, the second in command was actually Scourge. Scourge was because he was kicked out of the monastery of the Trinity of Worms. That's a long story as it is. We're not getting into that. This is for Jermad. So, after he got kicked out of there, he became the second in command. But there was also a third, a person that took orders directly from RAAM and carried them out, a specialized sniper known as Jermad. And what he could do was beyond what you could expect for a sniper. He was one of the best. He was a Cyclops type of grunt. So he had the helmet and everything, but it was a specialized one where instead of just one focus, the main part of his helmet was just the focus. He was exceptionally good, and his weapon of choice was a breach shot. The breach shot is a barely used weapon when it comes to Gears of War. Barely ever mentioned, barely ever used, barely ever seen in canon. Outside of canon when it comes to Judgment, and I believe it was also in Ascendance, it is shown and used quite a bit. The breach shot is a specialized type of Marxa. It's heavily modified by the Locust to be used by them. It has a lot more, I believe it has a lot more hit, but when it comes to ammo, it's a lot less. While the Marxa had a little bit more ammo, but it did a less damage as you hit. So, let's get into the history of talking about Jermad and why he was so deadly when it came to the Locust forces, especially for RAAM and the Bloody Vanguard. Now, the first time we ever see Jermad, and I have to keep looking because I keep forgetting his name along with his rank, because he goes through two of them. Jermad is actually one of the characters that we see right when the story begins for the Rise of RAAM comic series, and this is the only time he appears, aside from Gears 5, which he will now be a playable character. When it comes to him, the story picks up right when it's nothing but the Bloody Vanguard versus a ton of Locusts, and it is just a bloodbath. You have RAAM barking orders from the top, he's got a grunt over to the right of him, and on the left is Jermad firing off and sniping the best he can and taking people down. That's pretty much when we first see him. And he's ordered to fall back with a decent amount more of the vanguard because they need to go off, have higher ground so that they can like have some more breathing room away from the lambent. Because the lambent have always been about numbers and overflowing, like just destroying their enemies through their numbers. Now, granted, the locusts also do that, but the lambent they can just keep stockpiling their numbers of, lambent. Because if you go lambent, you pretty much follow like a pseudo hive mind type of deal. While you're a locust, it's still a hive mind, but it's more like you're an individual still. While if you're a lambent, you're all just one. So they're told to leave and get higher ground, leaving just Scourge and Rum to fight off a bit and have some more grunts drop off an explosive canister that'll just level off the area. Now, obviously, Scourge and Rum are making a run for it, and by the time they get far enough, he says, "Hey, Jermad, just take the shot, blow this thing up." Now, instead of firing the canister, he's actually skilled enough where he shoots a headshot on a moving lambent wretch, which blows up next to the canister and just levels everything. And that is the first time we're actually introduced to him. Again, he doesn't do that much in the story. He's never spoken about a lot. He's never in the panels that often. He's in maybe like 15 to 20% of the actual comic is where you actually see him. Like, I think he's only got in total maybe like 20 words, not even sentences, but just words he says in the comic. So that's when he's first seen. When you first see, like, okay, this is like RAAM's personal sniper, the guy he trusts, the guy that is a part of the Bloody Vanguard. He's not like a special person that came from somewhere like Scourge did. He's not in charge of something else. This is like the most elite when it comes to RAAM's forces. Now, when it does come to him, Jermad, he is probably the most skilled when it comes to the Vanguard, when it comes to RAAM's team, his 300 Blight. Because not only was he there during the battle, he's like the right-hand man of RAAM pretty much. Because I wouldn't say Scourge is. Scourge is more like his brother in arms, he refers to him a lot. His brother. Like, it does seem like Jermad is actually like the one pulling out the orders that RAAM gives him personally. And he's taking care of leading the army when RAAM isn't around. His 300 Blight. He hasn't started his army yet. So, he's so trusted by RAAM. At one point, RAAM, after that battle, goes up to him and says, assess the situation, the casualties, the injured, the ferocity, everything we have with the Blight right now, see what we're sitting at, and figure out what the current situation for our men are. And then after that's done, along with RAAM and along with Scourge and the rest of the Vanguard, they head over to the palace, and Jermad is there with both of them inside the palace when the negotiations are going off, and when pretty much Scrock just beats RAAM's head in like it's nothing. He's dragged out by Scourge, and both of them, RAAM is laying on the ground, Scourge is to the right, and to the left is Jermad, and Scourge pretty much just says to RAAM, like, yeah, that's some great negotiating you got there, while RAAM's just laying there in a bloody pile after getting his ass whooped. And then Jermad's on the side like, yeah, those negotiation skills, pretty good. Yeah, I've never seen any better. So obviously he's willing to like speak out. He's not just sitting there like, I follow orders to a T, yes sir, whatever you want. He's willing to speak out and has some sarcasm to him, even though RAAM is taller, deadlier, once a Theron guard, a higher rank than he's ever had, and yeah, he's willing to joke around with him. So it's obvious that they have the relationship where it's like RAAM trusts him enough where if he's to get sass back from Jermad, it's not like he's going to sit there like, okay, time for punishment. He's like, yeah, I earned that one if you're going to be the one giving me crap on this. Now, after that, Scrock was pretty ticked off that RAAM decided to vocalize, like, you're wrong about this and we need to go to the service instead of fighting Lambent. So he kind of sent a corpser their way, the first time they were ever armored, to go and pretty much teach RAAM a lesson. And Jermad was one of the first people to hear it coming, and he participated in that battle. He made it out alive, and pretty much that was when RAAM started his rise to power. His words got through the queen at that point, and that's what made Scrock really angry to send the corpser. So it got to the point there where you start seeing the rise of RAAM in the actual comics, go figure, because that's the name of it. But you also see Jermad as his right hand slowly moving up with him, not only through the ranks, but like through power pretty much. And that pretty much leads to E-Day. Skipping forward a lot, Jermad really isn't seen until you get to the E-Day stuff, where RAAM's been given the power of being in charge. He's been pretty much sent as the major general in charge of the armies. Not only that, but he has his own vanguard that are going to be the ones to assault the top, along with the rest of the vanguards that are out there, the rest of the Blights, while Scrox is sent out to fight the Lambent. Yeah, they go up and they just destroy everything on E-Day. And the first battle that takes place, actually it's stated, I believe in this comic, the first battle that happens during E-Day is stated to be, if I have it right here, it is stated to be... Here we go. The first battle of Jermad, I believe it's called, or Jermad. That was the first place that everyone came up. That's where RAAM came up. He was the general in charge. Scourge came up with him. You had the elites. You had everything coming up. You even had Therons that were up there. And of course, Jermad went with them. Jermad. As you can see, I start getting the name mixed up after a while because of all the different ranks and everything, all the different wording for what the Locusts have, which Locust culture, that'll be a video for a whole other day. I said that before, but trust me, that one will come. And pretty much up there, they're just raising havoc, destroying everyone, they kill William Carmine. That RAAM does that personally, and RAAM goes on a warpath. Jermad, as you can see in the panels later on, he is sniping every person he can. He's taking everyone down with his breach shot. And also, a little side note with his breach shot, if you think about it, this was before they went up to the human world. So that means somehow they got a Marxa on hand. He was able to get a hold of it, modify it into the breach shot it is, and then use it. Because at this point, humans didn't even know what they were. They didn't know what locusts were. So that means somehow they got a Marxa down under into the hollows, and someone got a hold of it, modified into a breach shot, and then Jermad got his hands on it somehow. Little side note on that one. But anyway, they're sniping, they're doing all that. Skrock was pissed about his demotion. He runs up there, tries to kill RAAM. Two Theron guards that RAAM made pals with, and they respected him to high hell, end up finishing off a few shots onto Skrock, and then RAAM literally rips his heart out. It's more like the size of a football, so he has to pretty much double-hand it. And then you pretty much see him turn around and look at Jermad, who is there with him still. Jermad is still surviving E-Day. Most Locusts did. And he says to him just like, these two right here, they're under your control. The two Therons that just pretty much just help him walk into a trap and save my ass. Jermad, you're now in charge. And congratulations, you've been promoted to a Krav, which is, I believe that is the level of a captain when it comes to the hierarchy of the Locusts. He is a captain rank. So he's pretty high up there, but there's still a few levels above him. For instance, if you look on the Wikipedia, it says that the Theron guards are a higher rank than the Krav, which is what Jermad was. So it was really weird that they ended up giving the Theron guards, say like, hey, you guys are going to follow Jermad for what he's going to say, when Jermad holds a smaller rank than both of them. But then again, RAAM's in charge of the army, and I'm guessing if a general told, like, I don't know, a petty officer to follow a private or something, I'm guessing that would have to go down, and the orders are orders. But that's the last time we see him. Completely. Like, he only appears in Rise of RAAM. He will be coming out in the Gears 5 multiplayer Operation 2 as a playable character. But there's nothing else. Like, he doesn't come up in the games. He's never mentioned in the games. He's never seen in the games. The breach shot makes more appearances and things than he does right now. And that's funny because, like, the breach shot's barely used. It's used by players, but I mean, in story-wise for characters, it's barely used. As far as I know, Jermad is the only one who mains a breach shot, and it just blows my mind. I think maybe Ragers do, but I think it might be just Jermad if the Ragers don't. But yeah, there's been nothing else about him. Like, we don't even hear if he dies or not. We don't know, and it's never stated in anything else what happened to him. So as far as we know. I mean, we saw in the campaign for 5, I mean, Locust did survive because they were tankered all the way down in that facility. But I mean, like, if there was a way that Locust could survive on land, Jermad's never been said to be alive or dead. So I'd like to assume he's dead after a while. RAAM got just knocked off and killed. Scourge, I mean, he had the saddest death of them all because it was the dumbest death. You know, Mira's dead. Karn's dead. I mean, everyone from that time, I mean, Skrock is dead because he died in the comic. I can't think of, I mean, he might be, it's never stated when he died. He could have been the last one alive from the Bloody Vanguard for all we know. He's a great character. The only question I have at the end of the day is why him over, like, Alex Brand, William Carmine, a decent amount of characters from Asphodel Fields. Carlos Santiago, why not him? You know, there's just a lot of characters you could choose from comics to bring in that are more well-known than Jermad. Don't get me wrong, I love Jermad. He's a great character for the rarity that he shows up. But there's so many other options. And I'm happy they brought him, but it's like I mean, I would see them bring back Karn or Scourge or Mira before Jermad. I mean, I won't argue it. I'm happy he's there. I mean, like I said, I'm still going to be away from Gears, so it's going to be rare I'm ever going to touch him. But, I mean, Jermad's a good character. I enjoyed him when he was in the comics and they talked about him. He seemed like a capable fighter. Like, if you put him up against some of the best snipers we know, like Bernie, I'd like to say he could give her a run for his money. Her money. Bernie's a big girl, but she's definitely all woman. Yeah, that's all I can think of when it comes to Jermad. I enjoyed him. He has a great design for what he looks like. He looks like a badass Cyclops with a helmet dedicated to the one scope. I mean, I don't think I have anything else. I mean, skilled sniper, special Cyclops helmet, not knowing what happened to him after E-Day. He's technically a drone class because, I mean, he's a drone, but he's a sniper drone. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I figured I would make this because I had a lot of recommendations online for people wanting to know more about Jermad, where he came from, the Rise of RAAM comic itself. So I thought I would talk about him quick. Not that much in detail that I would want to go into, but Jermad really doesn't have that much to talk about. I can stretch this for as long as I can, but at the end of the day, there's a limit. So, thank you guys for watching. A Gear Talk is out every Thursday. I'm hoping to get these back on track. This one should be out on the correct day, the correct week even. You guys have a great one. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, do all that. Buy merch as a Patreon. All the fun stuff. Stuff's in the link below. You guys have a good one. See you next time.